What's up YouTube, Dale here from Zephyr, and today I am bringing you another budget update, and this time it is going to be 6 Samurais. That's right, this deck got brand new support in Rage of the Abyss, and then its most expensive cards got a nice reprint in Rarity Collection 3 Bonanza. And the best thing about that is the deck is very powerful, very good. As a disclaimer, this is not the FTK version. As I've mentioned in previous profiles for 6 Sams, I won't be playing the FTK version. I mean, equivalently, the deck pretty much does run like the FTK version, because if you do set up your full power board, it's nearly impossible for your opponent to break it, but it's not impossible for them to break it. The deck's very fun, very combo orientated. I really do love the art type, and I can't wait to see if the deck gets even more support in the future. So with all of that out of the way, please smash that like button, hit that notification bell, and subscribe so you don't miss out on any more upcoming content. Diving headfirst into the monsters. Now, this is the one card that I really wish would have got an upgrade in Rarity Collection, but that is, of course, Kageki. Now, at this exact moment in time, this, in my opinion, is the best normal summon for the entire deck. Like, I don't really want to normal summon any of my other 6 Samurais, because either they don't have effects on normal summon, or they have abilities that special summon themselves from the hand anyway. So it's a little bit of a waste. The best thing about a card like Kageki is if you do already open up an extender like Kizan, like your brand new cards in the form of the Anarchist, and of course the Tactical Trainer, which I'm hoping in the future do also get an upgrade in rarity, as they're currently commons, which was great and easy to get a hold of. But the benefit of that one is if this eats a hand trap in the form of an Imperm or a Veiler, it's one less hand trap for you to need to worry about once you get into your Battle Shogun. Speaking of which, we do play triple Tactical Trainer and triple Anarchist. Now, the benefit of both of these is they have the little clause that they can't summon themselves if you only control themselves. You need to control another 6-Sam monster that isn't themselves. But the idea behind this one is straight away they are tuners, which is insanely powerful already, because then that can unlock the ability to get you into either of your Shiens, whether you want to go for the original Spell and Trap Shien or whether you want to go for the brand new Monster Shien, Negate, it can be very important. On top of that as well, both of the cards, when they're sent from the field to the graveyard, then allow you to search out quick play spell cards in the form of, and I'm just going to skip ahead to show you what they are. Off of the back of the Anarchist, you can search out yourself a Cunning or an Asceticism, and currently off the back of the Tactical Trainer, you can search out a Double Assault. Now, I'm not saying there aren't more 6-strike cards that you can search, but the idea is this is the best one for you, and the reason that these are all so good to be searched is the Asceticism gives you the ability to extend into a 6-Sam. What I really like about Cunning, which is probably why I'd arguably play this more at 2 than I would play Asceticism at 2, is this one gives you the ability to send one of your face-up 6-Sams to the graveyard and then revive another 6-Sam. The benefit of that one is it actually allows you to revive the Shien, and the Shien is actually a soft once per turn. So if you already use the monster effect and then activate Cunning, send this to the graveyard, and then have the ability to bring it back, you then reactivate its ability to negate a monster effect, which is really important. Double Assault lets you revive one from the graveyard. You can use its secondary effect to change a monster your opponent controls with less attack to face down defense, but honestly, I don't think that's as effective as it possibly could be. Being able to play these ones at each is perfectly enough in my opinion. The Asceticism is a little bit tricky, so you do need to keep in mind on some of the cards that do then kind of accumulate counters that then adapt their attack stats. As the Asceticism targets a 6-Sam you control, and then you special summon a 6-Sam from the deck with the same attack but a different name. You do destroy it during the end phase, so make sure you don't leave it on the board. But the idea is it gives you the ability to kind of tag out into other 6-Sam monsters that can be quite helpful. Continuing on with your other extenders, we do play triple legendary 6-Sam around Kizan. So this one is just as long as you control a 6-Sam, you summon it down. So you're going to keep going and going. And this is pretty much the same with the Grandmaster. As long as you control another 6-Sam, you just keep going and going. Then the other cards that got a nice little reprint is Kizaru and Hatsume. Now, personally, Hatsume, in my opinion, at 1 is more than enough. You definitely don't want it to be any more. This can be one of the cards you do normal summon, but you do want to make sure that there are more 6-Sams in the graveyard, because they banish, or Hatsume banishes 6-Sams from the graveyard to revive another one. So you need to have 3 6-Sams in the graveyard in order to do that. Kizaru is a great card to summon off of the back of Kageki. It's also a great card if you can get it special summoned to the board. But the fact of the matter is it's a when effect, and it has to be special summoned, and it allows you to add a 6-Sam monster from the deck to the hand with a different attribute from every monster you control. So even if you don't control a 6-Sam monster that is a dark attribute, it won't be able to search out a dark. In my opinion, this is much better than the True King version that I used to run, because you're able to destroy Fuma, and then Fuma would float into Kizaru a lot easier. In this particular version, it's one of them ones where you need to hard open it, or you need to summon it off of the back of something like a Skull Dread. And when you do summon it off the back of Skull Dread, that's when you're going to be able to only search out, like, you won't be able to search out an Earth, so you'll be able to search out the Anarchist, which gives you the ability to summon it down, and then that then start unlocking synchro plays for you as well. The last of the 6 sound monsters we play is the one Fuma. Obviously, the idea behind this one is a level 1, so just having Dojo with 1 counter on it gives you access to this card, and it is a tuner, so it does have a bit more utility. Again, in the True King version, a lot more effective because you can destroy it very easily, and then that allows you to float into Kizaru and you start searching out all of these different attributes. The issue with the True King version is it is just definitely full-on fun. It can be a little bit aggressive. It used to be like VFD lock, which was more competitive, I would say, not as more fun, but the idea behind that one is you would then be able to destroy the Fuma with the Mariamne. This would then let you float into Kizaru, and obviously Kizaru being an Earth was quite helpful for being able to utilize with the Lithosagam, which allowed you to be a little bit more aggressive. And the idea is when you're popping Kizarus, Kizaru would then be able to, so not hard once per turn, so every time you would summon Kizaru, you'd then get the effect again, which is really helpful. The last 6 sound monster I play is the Yaraza. Now, some people don't play this. I completely understand it. It's just a personal tech of mine that I like to play, and it's one of the ones if I'm not able to get to a token generate in the form of Dojo or United, the idea is that off of the back of going into my Great Shogun, my Battle Shogun, there we go. So after going into the Battle Shogun, what you then do is if you've used the, he's all on the other side, if you've been able to use, third time lucky, if you've been able to use Anarchist can search you out the Asceticism, and then you'd activate these, you'd use the Battle Shogun to search you out the Gateway. And then the way that would work is you'd then be able to activate Asceticism, target the Battle Shogun, as long as its attack hasn't been changed in any way whatsoever. That would then allow you to summon out the Yaraza from the deck. This would then give you the ability to put a token on the Battle Shogun and then 2 on the Gateway. And then all you need is another 6 sound monster or another token generated card that would then allow you to get the remaining cards that you need or the remaining tokens you need. On top of that as well, Yaraza is a level 3 Earth, so it does give you a lot easier access to get into a Nat Beast by being able to get hold of a Tactical Trainer and then the Yaraza, and sometimes Nat Beast can pretty much shut your opponent down. It is a personal tech choice of mine, you don't have to play it whatsoever, and it can be a little bit sticky depending on what you're trying to achieve with it, but for something that was like 99p, I was like, alright, I'll give it a go and let's see how it goes. The last, technically not 6 Samurai monster, but Great Shogun Shien we play. So we play this at 1. This one basically means your opponent can only activate 1 spell or trap per turn. Now keep it in mind, it's very important that with your original legendary 6 Samurai Shien, it negates the activation. So if you have these 2 on the board, technically your opponent can activate 2 spells and traps. It's just one of the ones that if you let the first spell and trap, like the first spell and trap they play has to be incredibly strong that you want to negate it. Whereas if they activate a bait card, you go, okay, well, it's a bait card, I'll take that, but I won't take the bait, I'll let it happen, and then the Battle Shogun Shien is still in effect, so they can't activate anymore. So it's a very, very powerful lock. Sometimes it gives you the option to go down the Shien route, or you go down the Nat Beast route. It really is up to you on your particular playstyle, but all of these cards here are relatively cheap. Like the Great Shogun Shien came as a super, it's a few £. There. Your Kageki, again, is only a couple of £, as well. And then your Raz is like 99p. You can even get it for free in a common, depending on what friend you have. The Kizarus and the Hatsumes with the more expensive cards have just recently been reprinted as well in the Rarity Collection. Unfortunately, I do believe that they both come under the Legacy, which means they only come as Platinum Secret or Secret. I could be wrong. I think it's Kizan that only comes in the Legacy. But I think like a Platinum Secret of Kizan is something like £5. So that should be relatively easy to get as well. Moving on to the 6 Samurai cards, we do play the one Gateway of the 6. You can only play it at 1. The card's incredibly busted. But this one got a nice little Platinum Rest upgrade, a Quarter Century upgrade, and then of course you can get it in its original super print. We do also play 2 6 Samurai United. The idea behind this is what I quite like about it is it's to draw power for the deck, but it also can be utilized to be able to stack Bushido counters on it, and then you remove Bushido counters from it every time it gets to 2, and then that just allows you to extend your plays further. Then got Triple Dojo. This is another one that I really do feel should have been in the Rarity Collection 3. Could have had a nice little upgrade as well. But only a super rare. It should be relatively easy to pick up as well. And this one's just another one that can accumulate counters. And then you remove counters from it and send it to the graveyard. And it lets you summon a 6 Sam with the same or less levels as the amount of counters on it. We then got Triple Smoke Signal. This is basically like a reinforcement of the army for level 3 or lowers, and this just gets even stronger because we got the brand new Tactical Trainer and the Master, because the idea behind both of those is they're level 3s or lowers, so very easily searchable. Reinforce of the army to search out any of your warrior monsters, and then personally I like to main deck Dark Ruler no more, as I feel it is the best board breaking card for this entire deck. You could main deck something like an Evenly Match, but the Evenly Match doesn't give you the ability to enter into a grind game, whereas with something like Dark Ruler no more, it gives you that ability to go second, turn off the entire board, and then continue to build your board. And when you have when you have access to like the brand new or the more recent Inishi, it gives you the way to kind of like bounce your opponent's board, so you don't even need to worry about not doing the damage. And then once you set up your pretty much full power end board, it's very difficult for your opponent to try and break it. On top of that as well, this can be a very cool side deck option, or when your opponent kind of countersides and puts in Dark Ruler and more to go against you, as that's one of the best cards to negate the entire board, because if they don't do it correctly, you might have a way to play around Droplet quite easily. It can also be a very cool cross-out target. Now, I'm personally main decking Crossout Target. It's worked for me, which is why I'm personally using it. Some people don't like it. It's entirely up to you. Take it out if you don't have it. Don't even need to worry about it. But the idea is that I play Crossout with 4 of the main targets that cause me issues. And that is, of course, Imperm, Droll, Veiler, and Ash. So you would adapt this environment or this element of the deck to the local environment. Now, the reason for that is Imperm and Veiler and then Droll. So Imperm and Veiler are the strongest cards to deal with the Battle Shogun because you're trying to get the Gateway. Gateway is your most important card. Once you get it and once it's rolling, you're in a very good position. Another card you might want to consider instead of Ash Blossom could very easily be Ghost Ogre, as that is another card that really kind of suffocates the root and even destroys your gateway. So something you need to keep in mind and look for. Draw and Lockbird can be very damaging as well, as you do search out early in the combo, and then once you search out early, it shuts off the gateway. So as you can see from here, these are all cards that hurt the gateway root, and because I'm not playing FTK version as well, it's something that I want to protect more times than anything. You can adapt this to the local environment. You can side in Nibiru. I feel we have a lot easier access to protect from Nibiru with the Shien. You do have ways to protect from Draw and Lockbird if you get to this first. But the issue is when you do get to this first, before you've started to walk into like a Veiler territory, Imperm territory, Draw and Lockbird territory, is you would have had to open up like the absolute nuts of a hand. So it's something that I wanted to kind of take the reliance off a little bit, so I didn't need to rely on opening up the nuts every single time, but actually being able to play the deck as I want to and protect it. It's worked out incredibly well for me. The only cards that do cause it an issue is stuff like Dominus Impulse, which at the end of the day, this is a budget deck, so you're not going to be putting in Impulse into this when it's about 45 to 50 pound a copy, but that's something you do need to keep in mind of. Again, if you don't want to play the crossouts, you would then start doubling up the hand traps, so the hand traps become more interactive for your opponent's turn. At this moment in time, the idea behind this deck is to go full combo. I don't want to see hand traps in my hand. I want to be able to see full-on 6 Samurai combos go and go and go and go and go, and once I've kind of opened up that ability to build up my most impenetrable board, if I do draw into more hand traps, it just gives me another layer of interaction from my opponent. But more times than not, when I set up my most powerful end board, which is usually like Shien backed up with Old Shien, sometimes the Battle Shogun, if not Nat Beast, an Omega that's ripped one from my opponent's hand, and maybe even a Crystal Wing or an IP into SP, it's very difficult for your opponent to kind of break that. So keep that in mind. So that's it for the entire main deck, relatively cheap and budget. You can probably pick up the entire deck for about £100 or less. The crossout is probably the one that might be a little bit more expensive just because of the format we're currently in. So like I said, if you don't have access to it, cut them out, and that's when you double up on the hand traps. Moving on to the extra deck. So for the 6 Sam monsters, we are playing 2 Legendary Lord 6 Samurai Shien. This card's an absolutely amazing card to be added to the deck. Not only does it search you out any 6 Samurai or Shien effect monster, which is how you can get into your Great Shien when it's summoned, but it also has the ability to negate a monster effect when your opponent activates it. And if it would be destroyed, you can destroy one monster you control instead. So it has it built-in protection. It's a soft once per turn to negate. It's a hard once per turn to search. And the best thing about it is it's not generic because it requires a 6 Samurai monster and a warrior tuner. So it means that, you know, it's not going to be abused in other decks, and that's when kind of the fun elements of decks kind of lose their way. One of the original Shien, just being able to negate spells and traps, is very, very important. Then, of course, we do play 2 of the Battle Shogun. Now, more times than not, you should only really need to go through 1, but you do need to be a little bit careful if your opponent is playing something like a Kashtira Unicorn. Ripping one of these away can be damaging if you only play 1, as this is your extra deck access to your gateway. Even in the grind game, if you've already got Gateway, this can then search you out Dojo, it can search you out United. It's very rare, like I've said, that you do get into a grind game with this particular type of deck because of how aggressive it is. But it's one of them ones where if you're able to break the board, reset your board up, then you've pretty much won. And if you're able to set up your impenetrable board without them being able to break it, then you've pretty much won. And if they do break it, then you scoop and you go to the next game because the grind is not so familiar for this deck. The last 6 Sam we play is the one Anishi. This is your aggressive synchro for going second. This gives you the ability to bounce your opponent's cards up to the number of 6 Sam monsters with different names in the graveyard. I believe it's different names. It might be... No, if it's synchro zones, you banish any number of 6 Sam monsters from the graveyard, then target that many monsters your opponent tries and return them to the hand. So, and then if it is sent from the field to the graveyard, you get to special on one of your banished 6 Sam. So you could technically banish a Legendary Lord, make an Anishi, banish the Lord, bounce a card, and then you link off, synchro off, get rid of the Anishi in one way or another, and then you bring back the Shien. So really kind of cool. For the other generic synchros that I'm playing, I'm testing out Crystal Wing, just because there are times when I can make my Legendary Lord Shien. Maybe I use this negate and I go, right, well, I've got a level 2 tuner, so we'll synchro this off, we'll go into the Crystal Wing, give me another negate, and then I can bring back the Shien later on or during my opponent's turn. Omega, being able to recycle can be quite helpful with banishing cards with like Inishi, Hatsume and stuff like that. But then also being able to make an Omega rip a card from your opponent's hand, which can be very important as you will fill up the board very quickly, can be very important as well. The Dawn Dragster just gives you another way to deal with spells and traps as a level 7, which can basically very easily be your Grandmaster plus a level 2 tuner, or of course there are ways of being able to upgrade your Shien into this, and then you bring back the Shien throughout other cards and plays. The only XYZ I'm playing is the one Daguerre's. It's just one of them options that you overlay 2 Keyzans. You'd then detach the Keyzans, either draw 2 cards, discard cards, or you'd revive from the graveyard, which again can be very important when you're trying to revive a 6-Sam monster to keep your combos going, or you revive a Shien to give you a bit more protection. Then for the the Link lineup, obviously IP into SP, Nightmare Phoenix to deal with pesky back row, and then the only other ones that I play is the one Skull Dread and the one Borrelsword. You don't need to play Borrelsword, you could play Access Code, but the way that I looked at it was Borrelsword is a bit more effective with the amount of links that I'm playing, for the pure fact that I'm not actually playing any link frees that are going to help me with my Access Code. I'm not really playing that many different attributes, I'm pretty much only playing Earths and Darks, so I felt that Borrelsword was a much better option. Not that you should ever really need it, but it's also another one of them cards that a lot of people don't even think about, don't even consider, and then you drop a Borrelsword on them and they're like, oh yeah, that card still exists. And you're like, well, this is going to guarantee me the OTK, especially when I've got all of these different Shiens that I kind of want to leave on the board. I can attack with them, shift them to defense, Borrelsword finishes the game off. And it keeps you on a nice tidy budget. So that's pretty much it for the entire profile. If you do have any questions at all, by all means, as always, put them in the comments down below and I'll be more than happy to answer them. I really do like Six Samurais. As I drop cards on the floor. I really do like Six Samurais. I like its playstyle. I like the way that it works. And I feel that in regards to decks like Six Samurais, they are fair decks. And what I mean by that is they're decks that kind of, to get the best out of them, to make them degenerate endboards, they have to go off unanswered. They have to play around loads of different hand traps. But when they get there, they kind of feel like they've deserved to get there. Like, an FTK is not the funnest way of winning a duel. But when you've been able to play through multiple interactions, when you've been able to build a board that is relatively strong but quite subtle in compared to today's modern game of 1-card starters gets you 7 negates and a whole handful of hand traps, it's kind of nice to see a deck play that way. And I think Six Sams, not only is the artwork amazing, the lore's amazing, I think everything behind it's amazing. It's a really kind of fun deck to play as well, and I do enjoy it. Anyway, if any questions, comments below, happy to answer them as always. But for now, stay safe, and of course, happy dueling.